that millions of animals are abandoned and left to die each year. If animals are lucky enough to get into a shelter, they are given food and a roof to live under, but we can give them so much more. In my survey, 10 students said they would consider adopting next time they want a pet, and 6 students said they would go straight to a breeder, shown on the screen. Even though more said they would consider adopting, that doesn't mean they will for sure go through with the process. The resources I used for this speech on animal adoption I took from 6 different sources that are all based on professional research. During my speech, I will give you many reasons as to why you should adopt an animal. My goal today is to increase the number of students in the class who will for sure adopt an animal. In 2016, there were 13,600 separate animal shelters in the United States. Despite the vast number of animal shelters, 6 through 8 million animals enter them each year, with 23% being killed. The article, The Impacts of Merges, Capacity Expansion, and Animal Adoptions on Animal Shelter Performance by Turkin et al. States. Euthanization in adoption guarantee shelters are performed only on terminally ill animals or those that pose a threat to society, commonly at a rate of up to 10%. In traditional or open shelters, on the other hand, euthanizations are performed due to space limitations, financial concerns, costly treatment diseases, behavioral issues that deem a pet unadoptable, or the age, breed, and other traits of the animal. Paraphrased from the article, Increasing Adoption Rates at Animal Shelters. Although animal shelters eventually decide to euthanize to reduce overpopulation, they first attempt to find the animals a home. Shelters reduce cost and provide incentives, but only a quarter of animals in the shelter are adopted. While euthanasia is a hot topic among animal rights activists, the stray animal population is also a significant issue. Paraphrased by Turkin et al., the number of stray cats in the United States is believed to reach 70 million, according to the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and this number is growing every year. As you can see, there are way too many animals being placed in shelters each year. You can help by doing the obvious, adopting an animal, but there are other ways to help that I will explain later. For now, let's discuss a few reasons as to why you should adopt an animal. First, you will be saving a life. More than 1 million adoptable dogs and cats are euthanized in the United States each year, simply because there are way too many animals entering shelters, and not enough people considering adoption when looking for a pet. Another reason is you will be getting a great animal. Animal shelters and rescue organizations are bursting at the seams with happy and healthy animals wanting to be adopted. The article, Top Reasons to Adopt Pets by the Humane Society of the United States, stated, most shelter pets wound up there because of a human problem like a move or a divorce, not because the animals did anything wrong. Since many shelter animals come from a home, they are used to living in a family and are usually house-trained. Also, animal adoption costs less than buying a pet from a breeder. Lastly, animal adoption is one way to fight puppy mills. If you buy a dog from a pet store, an internet vendor, or a flea market, it is almost certainly from a puppy mill. Since you now know many great reasons as to why you should adopt an animal, let's take a look at scientists' point of view on the topic. Like I acknowledged earlier, every year, 6 to 8 million dogs and cats enter shelters. These figures indicate a severe social problem in our pet populations, as shelters and rescue organizations are overwhelmed by the amount of animals in need of adoption. The article, I'm Not an Activist, by Jessica Greenbaum stated, academics, activist organizations, and small rescue organizations all place the blame on breeders, traditional shelter models, and on the general public for not investing properly in their pets. The scientists acknowledge the lack of sterilization, appropriate veterinary care, and proper obedience training, as well as the perception that pets are objects to be consumed and discarded when no longer useful, have resulted in unsolvable pet population crisis. Scientists believe animals are treated poorly in shelters, and they believe adoption is their savior. There are many ways to find your desired pet to adopt, even if it lives in a different part of the world. Crates containing animals are now a regular sight at airport lounges, arrival halls, and luggage carts waiting to be loaded onto planes. The article, Encounters with the Canine Other, Performing Domestication in Transnational Animal Rescue and Rehoming, by Nora Sherman, stated, many of these are previously unwanted animals that are transported to another country for adoption to a new home. The transnational practices of rescuing and rehoming unwanted animals have become more widespread since the 2010s, reflecting the rising awareness of animal welfare and the increasing popularity of pet keeping. Animal rescue groups transfer animals, primarily dogs, from Eastern and Southern European nations to wealthy nations for adoption. These animals may have been abandoned or lived their whole lives on the streets. Adoption homes are usually discovered through internet advertising, and after a new home is located, the animal or animals are taken there right away. Although adoption is the best for shelter animals, there is an alternate option for people who want to help and be involved but not fully adopt an animal. Even if you don't want to commit to an adoption, fostering an animal until it can find a forever home is a great option. The article, The Benefits of Pet Fostering by Samantha Lorello stated, fostering provides a temporary home to a shelter animal who, for various reasons, cannot live in a shelter. Maybe the shelter is too crowded, or it could be that the pet just doesn't do well in that environment. By taking in an animal to foster, you would be opening up a spot in the shelter for a different animal who is in need of a shelter. When fostering an animal, you are usually responsible for their day-to-day care, medical bills, safety, food, and giving them love and attention. In order to foster a shelter animal, you will need to call a shelter and ask for foster paperwork. It is usually best to call a few different shelters near you in order to see which one fits you best. Once filling out the paperwork is done and you have been approved, you can go to the shelter and select the animal you want to foster. Although there are many positives that come along with fostering a shelter animal, there is one thing to be aware of. Once your fostering time is up and the animal is going to go to their forever home, it can be tough. If you have become attached to the animal, you will have a hard time saying goodbye. For those of you who said they wouldn't want to adopt in my survey, hopefully fostering a shelter animal is something you look more into. You now all know many great reasons as to why you should adopt an animal, which were shown to you throughout my speech. You have also seen how an animal's life can be impacted for better or for the worse, depending on their situation. We live in a world where many people don't care properly for their animals, which in return grows the number of abandoned animals. Although we won't be able to reduce the growing number of shelter animals this instant, we can open our homes to poor animals in need, and in return, you get a best friend. Once more people realize this is a serious problem today, I hope we can all come together and make a difference.